Good morning and welcome to another edition of Badass Marketing. I am once again joined by the ever so lovely Angela Dunns. Angela, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm sad that it's the height of summer and it's almost gone.
Really? You're not looking forward to the fall?
Um, I am more of a fall girl. Yeah. Hoodies, soup.
I live in San Francisco. We have hoodies year round.
Well, I'm in San Rafael, so it's we get to wear tank tops.
Yeah, it's pretty much hoodie weather year round, and it's actually cooler in the summer. There's the old um, Charles, uh,
Carl the Fog.
no, no, God forget it. I can't remember. But there is a quote, and it'll come to me in a moment, like 10 minutes from now. But as to who said it, but the quote is the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San
I
Francisco.
have seen that many times.
Um, and it's Mark Twain. There it goes. It's Mark Twain. The coldest winter I ever spent was in San Francisco. So,
Nice recovery, Mike.
yes, yeah. There's a long blurb, sort of, you know, stutter in the middle of this, but yeah, I got there eventually. So today we are going to talk about social proof and what that means, what you should be doing, where are you focused, and then we'll have a couple of stories, of course, to sort of pepper this with real life examples. So social proof. What does social proof mean to you?
Well, it's really interesting. When I was doing the research for my newsletter, it's something I don't think we realize how much it affects the decisions that we make. We really think that we're in ownership of our decisions, but it's every time we see something on Facebook or we see it on Instagram or in the news feed on LinkedIn, it is it is all of these things that start to influence our decision making process. And it is fueled by the fact that we want to be part of a certain tribe. We want to be identified as a certain kind of a person. So there is some of that fear of missing out. There is, well, I want to be part of the cool kids. I'm going to have an Apple computer because they're rebels. Um, it's really it's it's a certain identity that you're subscribing to that is associated with a product or a service.
Yeah, and I would say that for myself, I approach it from a different perspective in that I have been fortunate enough to have bought some really crappy products off the internet, or have had some really horrible internet experiences where things didn't show up, where things were, not what they purported to be. So for me, I am looking at the reviews, I am looking at the ranking. When we travel, we typically will book an Airbnb. So we're looking at what the other guests said, and if something has like a 2.0 rating, we don't even bother to look at it. There's no reason for us to, consider something that is ranked that low. And again, I've made some purchases online, some seriously bad mistakes, that were too good to be true, apparently, and they were too good to be true. So I am more mindful of, if I'm looking at a product on Amazon, if it doesn't have a 4.5 or better, there's a good probability I'm not buying it.
Right.
Just because I am using that as sort of my safety net, that other people have bought it, other people have engaged with this seller, that type of thing, and had a positive experience. And if I see something with a really low ranking, I'm seriously going to think twice about whether or not I'm going to take that risk.
Well, and I
Uh,
would add to that, if something is too new and it hasn't hit the rankings yet, boy, that's a red flag for me as well.
yeah, it's a red flag, but then again, what if we are the new product? And like, what do we do with that? Because that will be a barrier for us. It turns into a bit of a catch-22, right? You need reviews to get reviews, and you don't have, customers yet, like, so, you can't win, right? You have to start getting these reviews. And the other problem is, especially if it's a new product and we see a ton of new reviews, do we even believe them, right? Because,
Right.
is this the owner writing their own
They're
reviews?
way
Yeah,
too glowing. Is it an influencer that's been paid?
exactly. Right. We actually, it was funny because this is not the story that I'm going to tell later, so don't get disappointed. I know you're concerned, but this is a different story. So we have some behind the scenes type of things going on. But so we had an influencer who responded. We do marketing, and one of our clients is a tequila company, right? And we had an influencer who responded very positively to one of the tequila brands that we were promoting, right? And on Twitter, we posted, oh, we didn't post it, the influencer posted it. It wasn't one that we paid, it wasn't one that we anyway engaged with, but they just happened to have a good following. They just happened to comment on the particular tequila because it's a relatively new tequila, and they made glowing positive reviews. The very first comment was from somebody who's like, oh, this is a paid influencer that you can't even believe anything that this person says. So we hadn't paid the influencer. We hadn't done anything like that. They had just gone ahead and made a positive review of this particular tequila that they liked. And, people are skeptical that a positive review means you paid them off. So there's that aspect to it. It's like just to further complicate it. We get a nice review from somebody. The immediate reaction is, oh, it can't be real.
Right.
And it was genuinely real.
Yeah.
So, which is sort of like, you can't win no matter what you do. But it is important to understand this, and it is important to understand the value of social proof.
Yes.
And there are many ways that we can establish social proof. One of the ones is what we've been talking about is just customer reviews, and whether it be on your own website or whether it be on other websites such as Amazon or on Facebook or LinkedIn, those types of reviews, Twitter, all those types of things. That's one aspect. Another aspect is, like if you are writing and being published, if you're published in a credible journal or publication, that gives you some social proof. Like if the American Medical Association posts an article, one would think they have vetted it and that therefore, they are putting their stamp of approval or, social proof onto what you're expressed. So there's credibility in where you're published, and which also
Right.
speaks to the fact that you may not want to be promoted by Bob's Home Medical and Snake Oil Kit website, right? So, we want to make sure that, if you get commentary from the wrong place, that can harm you as much as commentary from the right place. So make sure that we, understand the value of who these social influencers are. So we have social influencers, we have applications, we have the customer reviews. We've talked about the fact that, I don't even look at some things if the review isn't, 4.0 or 4.5 or better.
Well, and last week we talked about Forbes. People pay Forbes to publish their articles. So if you don't know if they've been invited to publish or they've paid to play, that doesn't help with the credibility at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, I do know that Forbes invites people, but my reaction when you mentioned Forbes last week is like, oh, that's a pay for play. There's no credibility there.
Yes, exactly. And so that really dilutes the credibility of that particular platform.
Right. So there's that. And, many of us, especially in, the website business, we use affiliate links, we use other types of means, but it's important to disclose that so that folks feel that there's transparency, and that you're not tricking them. Like, we did pay this person, this was a paid influencer, or we did, this is an affiliate link. We will make money off of this if you choose to buy it. We'll put the disclaimer in that, the editorial content is separate from the money-making aspects that are in the article, and you can choose to believe or not as to whether that's true. Like if we're saying something up here and we have a link in the bottom that it's an affiliate link, you can decide whether or not that editorial is based on the paid link or it's based on our actual experience. And that's your credibility and trust with us. But I really think social media or social trust, social
Proof.
thank you. Social proof is, about establishing trust.
Yes.
It's, we talk about know, like, and trust, and this is the trust aspect. I don't know you. I don't, and it's not a question of whether I like you or not. I just don't know you. So I need some other external validation, whether it be comments, whether it be publications, whether it be a known influencer who is respected, to help me develop trust that I should buy your product.
Or your services.
Or your services. Right.
And I was just thinking about something. I participated in several different posts yesterday in the newsfeed on LinkedIn. And that's really interesting to me because we all know each other. It's all members of certain professional networking groups and that sort of thing. And there is a great deal of credibility and the whole know, like, and trust in that. But when you move farther away,
but they have the no aspect already.
Yes. And so that is establishing instant credibility. Whereas, a lot of times on the internet, nobody does know you. And so establishing credibility that way is a much more difficult road, and it takes a lot more time.
Yeah. So what else can we do to establish social trust? What other things do you focus on?
Well, the content is a really big piece of this in my mind. I'm always going to come back to content because that's really what I'm all about. But publishing valuable content, and especially if you can move into that thought leadership space, if you can become one of the people at the forefront in a specific conversation, that bears some credibility. But if you don't enjoy that thought leadership status, are you publishing consistently? Is the theme and the content, does it move along in the same direction, or is it one day you're talking about this and next week you're talking about something completely different that are unrelated? So are you adding value? Are you educating and informing your audience and earning their trust?
And for us, the way that we demonstrate that, there's two things that we think are primarily important when it comes to that, because people will ask us, what have you done? Right?
Who have you worked with?
Who have you worked with? So testimonials and actual case studies where we can say, the testimonial is like, hey, they work with us, they love us, they're saying nice things about us, and maybe they're our brother-in-law or not, but that sort of, but testimonials help. However, for us, it's the case studies. It's like, here's what we did. Here was the problem that the customer was facing. Here's how we resolved it. And here was the output. So, creating these case studies to demonstrate that we have done this before. And as a result of our involvement, here was the outcome. And, so for us, case studies are huge, to, answer the, what have you done? And have you done this before? Because most of us, when we're online, again, we don't know this person, and they're like, oh, we're the experts. And like, yeah, who have you worked with? What have you done for them? And what has been the outcome, right? We have talked about ad nauseum the fact that we love metrics. So show me the metrics, show me like what, if you're claiming that you improve their awareness, how many new users were there? How many of those converted to sales? What does that all look like from a metrics perspective? So those case studies, we think, are hugely, valuable when it comes to establishing social proof.
Yes, well, and the case studies, even client success stories, however brief they may be, are really great because it's illustrating what you do and what the result was for somebody else who might be similar to you. So the case studies and the client success stories are super important, especially if you can put a testimonial with that and have them say it. Then the testimonial becomes a lot more important. Now, if you can add data, data in itself can be social proof. You know, how many businesses have you served? Is it 10 or is it 400? You know, those kinds of things can be a part of the social proof as well. So if you use a case study, you can incorporate several different kinds of social proof into the same thing.
Yeah, and the only thing I'm going to caution you on data is data can say whatever you want it to say.
Yes.
You know, numbers can be misleading because, if I am going to present the metrics, especially if I'm trying to establish this social proof and this credibility that are favorable to what I'm trying to promote. So, I will caution you that numbers can be misleading. Oh, we got 10,000 new viewers. Well, none of them converted to customers, so who cares?
Exactly.
Right? So, I would that if you're going to do numbers and metrics, because they can potentially be misleading, we also want a tremendous amount of transparency, right? What is the underlying information? We got 10,000 new followers because we paid for AdWords, and that just drove signups, but it didn't drive traffic. So like the other aspect of social proof is transparency. Like, was this a influencer who on their own independently chose to create a favorable review, or did you pay for it? Are you promoting this product because you have an affiliate link down below and we'll make money off of it? We want to make sure, because nobody wants to be hoodwinked, nobody wants to be scammed. So if we're using these types of tools, and there's nothing wrong with them, but be transparent about it. This was a paid influencer. This was a we potentially will make money off the links. So just make sure that there's an element of transparency to it, so that your viewers and your readers don't feel like they're being scammed.
Right. Well, and be realistic about it. I just got another email on LinkedIn about, would you like 100 leads next week? I can't handle 100 leads. You can't get me 100 leads in a week. I'm going to tell you that. Not
Well, they can get you
qualified
100
leads.
leads, but they're not leads that you need, or
Yep.
leads that will
I don't have
lead
the
to
time.
business.
I don't have the interest. And that's being terribly braggadocious, in my opinion.
Well, there's also, like I said, we've talked about this as well, is we will get an email a couple times a week where like, oh, you're recognized as one of the best digital marketing agencies
Oh
in the
my
area.
God.
And, we want to feature you at our awards ceremony, and like, oh, that's so lovely of you. Oh, by the way, guess how much it costs? So
Yes.
they are selling these
The pay to
awards.
play.
Right. And, so I don't need a paid for award to promote our agency. It's just not, there's no credibility to it, and anybody who knows what these different, award ceremonies are, like, oh, that's a pay to play award, versus a genuine, we got an award for being good. Sometimes that happens, and we've gotten a couple, but it's been not awards that we paid for, not awards that, we bought. They were, a genuine recognition of the things that we'd worked on, which is why it's important that you marry that back with the case study. We got this award because here's what we did. We had a customer with this problem. Here's how we solved it. And here's the benefit they received as a result of it. And oh, by the way, we were recognized for that and we got an award, which is cool. We like that.
Yes.
But, we can back it up with, we actually did something more than write a check.
Right, right. Industry awards can be that way. Newspaper awards, best of Marin, blah, 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 all of those kinds of things. Those are independent and not paid for.
Right. And we want to know that, that this was, and a lot of those awards will say, we do not accept any gratuities for this. We do not, it's independent from anything, from our editorial or for our advertising department. It's not based on that, so that they're transparent in the fact that, Their
Yes.
selection process is not, biased by, some sort of ways to make money.
Right. Yes. And I work with attorneys. And so if they win a big case or a high profile case, they will make an announcement about that too. And that is
Because they're
something
shy.
that very
Yeah.
introverted to the extreme. Um,
Yeah. Lawyers are
but
my favorite.
that does carry some weight, especially if it's a high profile case.
Well, it's a case study where you can clearly articulate, here was what the problem was, here's what we did, and here was the outcome to the benefit of the client. That's proof. It is what it is. And it's, I think that ability to back up your social proof with real time, real case studies, real examples of what you've done. Obviously, a testimonial as well from the client, like, they went in, they worked hard for us, they were diligent, they were killer in the courtroom, whatever it was, but that testimonial adds to that as well.
Right. And the
So
client success stories. I mean, I push stories so hard with my clients, and I really use a very simple story arc, and you don't have to use identifying features. It's just, what was the challenge? What was the solution the two of you came up with, or that your team came up with for that client? And then what was the client able to do? That's the piece everybody seems to miss. They were able to scale from 10 employees to 400 employees in 6 years because of their systems or whatever it was.
and we have certain themes that we like to continually beat to death. This is one of them, which really what we're talking about is the value proposition and how it was applied to this particular customer. The value proposition identifies an unmet need or a challenge that the client is having, right? It identifies what we proposed as a solution. It identifies the outcome and the benefit. So the case study is a value proposition based on that particular, set of circumstances. So, if you haven't heard us talk about value proposition, this is another, if you haven't been paying attention, or you just don't listen to us, which, thank you for finally joining us. Otherwise, this is another way to address your value proposition. And this is, a real world example of your value proposition. Here's what's the problem. Here's the solution. Here was the outcome. And that was the benefit the client realized. It's value proposition.
And that is just an absolutely beautiful way to sort of close the circle on case studies, testimonials, client success stories, and bring it all back to the framework of the value proposition. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I'm glad we could wrap it up so cleanly and so nicely, because we rarely do that.
Yeah, we generally
We
think
tend
of
to
10 more
meander all over
things by while we're wrapping things up. Oh, and then there's this, and then there's this.
right. Go down some little rabbit hole, which we've been known to do. So we're going to
Maybe.
quit while we're ahead, because apparently we were able to wrap it up very nice. We put a bow on it. We're done. Hopefully you
A
enjoyed it.
big
Hopefully you liked
pink
it.
Barbie bow. And by the
Big
way,
Barbie
I'm
bow.
going to see Barbie again this weekend with another group of friends. And it's so funny because I have been looking at some of the really cameo pieces of it because people have been talking about it in the news and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go this time and really relish it and enjoy it and absorb some of that stuff. So there'll be more I could talk about.
See, we couldn't leave it with the bow. We had to keep going. We can't help ourselves.
It's too tempting.
Go see Barbie. Apparently Angela recommends it.
I do recommend it. It is definitely a conversation starter. Love it or hate it. I really think you should see it.
And if you haven't, go check out our earlier review about Barbie, the case study, which we love case studies. We love value propositions. We just love recurring themes. Apparently, we just talk about the same thing. We just call it different things. So go listen to it. Go see it. If you like what we're talking about, please leave a comment below. Hopefully you like us. And then we'll see you next week. Angela, have fun at Barbie.
I certainly will. I will enjoy it. And you have a good weekend too, Mike. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.